What's up, VeeFam? My name is Mr. Messer, but you can call me Rob, and I am here live in the VeeFam Network studio with the one, the only, for the second time, head of community for the VeeFriends, Mr. Daniel Donayre. Daniel, thank you so much for being here, especially on tonight. How are you?
I'm doing super well, Rob. Thanks always for the invite and having me here. It's great to be back a second time. Luckily, it's kind of a quiet night, so I'm thrilled to be here, man.
So for context, for anyone listening back, we are in one of those, and we're gonna get into this in a second. One of these like crazy, it's a special moment weeks. Gary and the team live streaming every night and whatnot, and today is like the grand finale, right? When we're having this, I think there was like 700 people in the room, but we are not gonna fold. We're having this conversation. You are a conversation worth having. Thanks, guys, for being here. We're not folding for whatnot. So happy to see your face and be here. You are so busy, so busy, so busy. Congratulations. Yeah, last time you were on here, it was December 23, and you were expecting uh, your second. How's that
That's
going?
wild. That's wild. It has it really been since it was December 23?
December 23, episode 37 was the last time you were in the hot seat here.
That's incredible. Yeah. So shortly thereafter, February 24th, the following year, we had our baby girl. She's turning a year on Monday, which is absolutely bananas. But everything's going super well, man. Super lucky, super grateful. Our eldest, Luca, is 3.5. We're about to have our 1 year old Sasha coming up in May in on Monday. But everything's going well. Fam is good. Life is good. Cannot complain. Super happy to be here. As always, thank you for having me. And thank you for all you do, by the way, with the VeeFam Network and VeeFam Sessions. You have been on the ground since the early days, even pre VeeFriends becoming a thing. You have just been a pulse and a strong member and pillar of the community. Your documentation, your creation, and everything in between is something that I'm excited to look back on as the years continue on and as VeeFriends continues to grow. And you got the receipts.
I appreciate that, especially coming from you. Uh, before we dive in, there's so much to talk about. I listened back to our first conversation, first documented conversation, and I was like, man, we didn't even get into this. We didn't get into that. So I have like front loading like some bullet points. But you
Awesome.
mentioned your family and Luke is 3.5. So like you're getting he's getting to be up there where you can start having some of these conversations. Have you introduced any of the characters or V friends,
Yeah, super
and how
great
are you
question.
doing it?
In a couple of ways, and oddly, the exact ways that we're hoping to introduce them in general, right, to kids and adults alike. The cartoons is the obvious every Saturday, and I mentioned it during our weekly spaces. Every Saturday becomes a ritual where we watch the VeeFriends cartoons during or after breakfast, and that's just like a sure shoe in where Luca is invested. He loves the dinosaur. He loves the doggy. Thinks the cat's funny. So the
Yeah, that's
cartoon's like the
awesome.
perfect recipe. And then the trading cards. That's kind of where he first got familiar with the series 2 art and the characters and etc. And so those would probably be the two mediums where he knows them the most. But the cartoon is like a shoe in for him.
So he's in it. That's awesome.
Totally.
I often think about like the second generation, the second wave of like be friends, which are our children, um, and it's wild to see because like like how fast it happens inside, and now like here we are. I just said that conversation we had feels like yesterday, but it's over a year ago. Um,
So crazy.
Amazing. So happy for you and your family. I'm glad everyone's doing well.
Thank you. Thank you.
And for anyone listening to this, uh, Daniel is coming. This is round two. He was on episode 37, and everyone's first, uh, you know, episode, first convo is kind of like getting to know you, the origin story. So if you want to know about Daniel, amazing story. I'll just quickly hit some bullet points. Community member, got into Web3 with his dad, won a Go Gratitude Gorilla rare in the early crazy Discord days in 21. Ended up coming on the team, was back and forth. Thank goodness you joined, but was back and forth. Like, was he going to accept the position? He did. Still here, crushing it. And like some cool tidbits along the way. Worked in your family wine shop, right? How much of a parallel is that to the big man? So a lot of cool stuff. Check out episode 37 to fill in the details, but we're going to dive into a lot of the the 201 overview stuff because so much is happening here. So with that, like, we're in a moment now, right? Like, I wrote a tweet about this earlier. There are moments in time, May 21, the crazy, like, the birth of this whole thing. Discord's crazy. People are learning about what this is. ETH is through the roof. Then we have book games, and Gary's playing Game Master, and that was crazy. And then Cardboard Summer, and then this Fanatics era, whatnot. So I feel like I call it the BTC era, the before Topps Chrome era is coming to an end. So, like, you feel that, right?
100%. I think anyone who's watching this live or rewatching, and you and I here and everyone in the community, the feeling is palpable. From War Room vibes, Gary War Room, as we've seen this week, right? Live stream, everything that has to do with Topps Chrome. You can just feel it. It almost feels like you can literally, like, it's a tangible feeling in the air. And that obviously coupled with the excitement of an anticipated release that we've known for some time for VeeFriends Topps Chrome. But yeah, you can certainly feel it, and we're just as excited internally. Obviously, more info to come and to be shared, but this is definitely one of those, like you said, this is one of those times and moments that we'll discuss in session 3 and looking
Right.
back. This is a moment. We're in a moment right now.
But you're so right. Like, I could feel it, like, in my stomach.
Yeah.
And there's cool things that have happened, like, these endless announcements, like, the I thought about it earlier that, like, when you announced, like, Burn Island, the eruptions, like, that was that was a big stream. It was a fun week, but, like, you didn't have that, like, lingering, like, we're moving forward kind of thing. And this it's just happening. And you see, like, there was 800 people just a few minutes ago when I popped in. Like, they're coming. So that's got to be so exciting for you, and you guys probably just trudge on forward regardless of the emotions, and that's it's gotten you this far.
100%.
There's a few pillars that I want to hit. So obviously community, you're the head of community, and we have to talk about Veecon because I thought it was criminal last time we didn't really touch on Veecon, and I think it's very fitting because now we can really look at it as a whole as well. So community, you know, there's a lot of niches. We have a lot of, we have your man-made niches, the goats, the hawks, the the specs, and then we have kind of our organic pockets, cards and collectibles, VeeFriends Canada, those things that happen. I think you were the guy to ask. You're so good at your job, and you're so passionate, and you just have a pulse on what's happening, like many of the people across the team. And this is kind of a very wide open question. I want you to take it where you want. But could you, like, give us, whether someone that's been here for a while or maybe someone that's new, could you give us, like, in your best way that you're going to package it, like a quick overview of, like, maybe some of the other nooks and crannies, groups, holder groups in our ecosystem? Because I feel like we're in our little bubble, and especially in a time where a lot of people are going to be coming in, it'd be cool to see, like, from your perspective, because you're sitting at the top, like, what are some of the other niche communities out there?
Yeah, 100%. And I think you hit it on the head. And what's really interesting is you look at it so many different ways. Regionally, you brought up VeeFriends Canada. Shout out to Jonathan Garcia. Also spoke at Veecon 2024. You can look at it regionally, right? Germany, Canada, Australia, UK,
Yeah.
etc. Right? Obviously here,
Shout out VFuckers.
Shout out the VeeFuckers, yes. And so you start there as well. There's obviously the regional connections and tie-ins there. You go into then cards and collectibles ecosystem and subgroup that I think the last 2 years you've seen obviously tremendous growth there in general. And then even if you dive deeper of say sort of the channel subgroups and token gated subgroups of Hangout Hawks, gift codes and specs, kind of another layer there that you see at a high level and obviously expand outside of token holders are small business owners, content creators such as yourself, right? Podcast, things of that nature as well. And you start really seeing that there's so much cross pollination across holder groups and even again, you don't even have to own the NFT, but just being in our community, there's so much intersection when it comes to that. I think one of the coolest aspects, and kind of tying it back into Veecon, the coolest aspects that I think Veecon has done looking back that I've seen every single year is that intersection, right? VeeFriends and Veecon kind of being the focal, but content creators, athletes, podcasts, parents, stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad, entrepreneurs, marketers, or even the curious, right? Like I'm a entrepreneur curious person. I'm a content creator curious person. I haven't gone there, but I like to learn more. And I think that's what's been really special is seeing that it really goes way across the gamut. And Veecon has been a really cool hub to where all different types of subgroups and communities can kind of mesh, learn about each other. I've seen you in Discord or seen you on Spaces, but I've never met you IRL. I think has been like a really special experience beyond obviously the amazing speakers, activations, hanging with Gary. I think we've heard it time and time again that the community and the people and the attendees is really where the magic is happening and the side events. Shout out to you as well. I was able to attend this past VeeCon pre-con, which is really fun. And so all of that bubbling and energy across the entire community is the fuel that keeps the engine going.
Yeah, like it certainly does run the gamut. And I'm thinking back to a conversation you had, and I think Andy was on one of the 555 spaces not too long ago, where you were, I think Discord came up and people were like talking about like, Discord doesn't get attention. And the punchline was like, where would the town hall be? Like, does it make sense to segregate it, or like, do we just have one meeting time? And it's right now it's working on 555. Like X is where the community is for the majority. I don't know if you guys have data on that, but like, I
Yeah,
think it's fair to say that's where we are, right?
I think so. I think you hit on the head from what we're seeing on the data, and also too for expanding community and kind of expanding awareness is I think something that's been really important to us throughout the years. And I think even from an NFT holder perspective, collector perspective, the more reach we can do within Web3 and beyond, I think is a net positive, driving back the attention and recognition to VeeFriends on a platform where we think we can continue to outreach and get new people in to learn. We just had an example this past week where we had someone literally jump in that I believe, and I got to get their name and I'll get it, but they didn't know what space they were entering into, but they just came in, clicked on the microphone icon. So I think they may have been new to spaces in general.
Right.
And so they didn't realize they were requesting up, brought them up, and Jeremy did a wonderful job describing what is VeeFriends, what we're up to, and it got him interested, wanting to learn more. Hopefully he'll be back next week. And
That's
so I think
amazing.
that's just like one sliver of an example of where there's a net positive of reach and getting new people to learn more and more about what we're doing.
And Jeremy, and I'm thinking back now, like my head, I'm going total Swifty. Like I just think my mind thinks in eras now.
I
In
love
like
it.
the spaces, like we're evolving era when Jeremy was doing space every day. So much time was spent of him like forgetting how many people are in the room, forget how many hands are up. He would just take as much time as he needed, regardless of their entry point and their understanding of explaining like to his full capability, like what VeeFriends is, or like whatever the question was. Language barriers, bad reception, whatever, what have you. Like he just trudged on through, and that's why he is where he is.
100%. And he's
Uh,
still doing that too, which is crazy, Rob, to another degree of the sort of V concierge, where he literally will have 1-to-1 30-minute sessions with people that have no idea what an NFT is, what VeeFriends is, and he takes the time and energy to make that happen. So shout out to him.
were you were you on the interview team for him?
I was not. I was not. He, and if I remember correctly, I gotta go back a little bit in time. I believe his first position and title was character performer. Don't quote me, but I'm almost certain. And that was through a different department, through more of our on the creative side
Got it.
of the house. So wasn't through there, but naturally, as you can imagine, I was able to provide my positive feedback of what I've seen, obviously from the beginning to now of him.
I love that. I want to take a quick pause because I want to shout out the people that are here. We really appreciate you guys. Savvy, thank you. Joseph Palbo, music,
Let's go.
Ann, Bag, Jen and Henry, Soggy, what's up? H Town, Dom says, Gary, send me here from Whatnot. What's up? Amazing. Thanks for being here. Joe Animal, thank you. Katie, and B Miller, of course. Thank you guys for being here. It's not easy to go up against a motivated Gary V that's drinking. But
Don't worry, Rob. Let me just send a text out to my community group really quick
I
and get
love
them
this.
all to come in.
Amazing. So real quick, just on the community, we're in a place where people just are like you said, like it comes from the top. We're so I'd say the community is so welcoming, so eager to answer and help, and send cards to people that don't have cards, and get in the DM, show, explain the ecosystem. Like people do that naturally, but if if I threw two questions to wrap this segment up, like what would you want to see from the community as we're going through this growth? And I think it's fair to say like it's happening. Like it's not in the future anymore. It's happening now. This is a moment. So what would you like to see from the community, and like how would you like to be utilized more? Like you've been in this position for a while. Like let maybe people just don't know that they can do this if they need help. So I'll throw those two at you.
100%. Great thing. I think for the first one is continue like what's been done. Like I think we've seen it for years and it's continued and it's continued. And to number one, it's super humbling to hear all the names that you just said that are watching, because I literally just like their face comes into mind, or thinking about the last time I connected with them IRL. It's super special that it's kind of graduated throughout the years from username to IRL meeting and just
Mm,
knowing the connections here. We're so lucky to have such a tight knit community, even as it grows. But I think more of the same. The welcoming aspect that I think we all just have innately, and that's just top down from Gary and team and community throughout the years. It's like second nature for us to welcome with open arms anyone that's learning about VeeFriends and wants to get into it and wants to learn. And so I think more of that. It's always been amazing to see that. Um, and then obviously the education is always super important. And again, it's like folks like you, Rob. It's like folks like we can just go down the list from like To the Moon, Courage, Ron, and like we can just keep going and listing off names over names. That education and welcoming, even beyond what we're doing, right? Like we're going heavy streaming, doing our thing on Whatnot, etc., TikTok, etc.
mm,
But the continued rates that the community continues to connect, and even just to hang, right? The Twitch streams where we're not really even selling anything, but we're just hanging out on a Friday night and a weekend. So like more of that, I think is super important. And then I think additionally, what we're constantly discussing internally and looking to create more streamline and efficiencies of like how can we do more, like you said, like how can we integrate more of community initiatives even outside of the internal branding. And I think we've seen little breadcrumbs of it, whether it's the sanctioned tournaments where we partner with community for
Yeah.
TCG events, whether it's the most recent New Year, New You drop where we're partnering with
Mm-hmm.
breakers and streamers within our community and even outside of our community to garner more awareness. And so I think doing more of that and doing it more at scale and more often, and the more opportunities that we have to do that, I think is not only special to continue to harness stronger relations with our community, but it's a win-win-win-win in my opinion, just overall in the long term. And even on that nature, I can't remember whose stream it was, Rob, but there was like a Disney centric whatnot show where they were selling New Year, New You pins and mystery collections. And I was floored to see our community showing up to the stream. They could have showed up to someone internally, whether from the
Mm-hmm.
team and Gary livestream with Rips or from the community, but the outpouring of support to go to someone else's show to make that connection, introduce who VeeFriends is, who the community is, like that's the power. That's who we are. That's what we've seen time and time and time again throughout the years. So I think more of what we've already been seeing from the community, which is authentically who we are, welcoming, educational resources every single time it happens, and it's the best. And then to your point, I think from a brand perspective, is double downing and doing more on our end to harness and expand the relations that we have with community in fun ways that we think are win-wins.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I'm happy you brought up the New Year, New You. The sanctioned tournament thing was cool. Um, to just hand someone that responsibility. And then yeah, just the little nod, the little feather to people that I don't know if affiliate's the right word, but maybe an official like ambassador, official streamer, what have you. I know people appreciate that because who doesn't like to get acknowledged? So
Absolutely.
I'm sure that's not the last we're gonna see of that kind of stuff. Um, let's get to VCon. So, from a historical perspective, this whole thing was built. We go all the way back to the beginning. You got a V1, you got a VeeFriends NFT, and the value from that was it was a ticket to this conference for 3 years. That's come and gone. I don't know how. Um, but there those 3 years are. So you were have evolved with that. So like let's start with the teacher in me says like what for you, and then we'll get to you as just like a fan and community member. But like as a in your role professionally, like what were some of the learnings that you have now, like walking away at the end of LA in 2023 versus where you started in Minnesota? Like, what were some big learnings or just takeaways
For
from
sure.
that?
For sure. We'll start with the first in 22, Minneapolis. I mean, that one has a special place because again, the first
It was the first.
big deal. A lot of people meeting for the first time IRL that met through the Discord in the early days. And so that alone had a very special meaning behind it overall. I would say that first one was a lot more hands on, everyone, all hands on deck, all staff working alongside all the other workers that were getting all the different setups going. And we were doing the same thing and helping however we could, while also getting set up to create content, social posts, things of that nature, email comms, and etc. The Veecon app, right? There's so
Mm,
much that was just so new, and our first time, not only again for folks to experience VeeCon, but to actually put on a successful VeeCon, and I think it was extremely special. I unfortunately got COVID in the middle of it, and so I did miss some of it, which was a bummer. But for the first 2 days, one thing that I wanted to be super intentional about was meeting or connecting with as many people as possible on the ground. And so that's one key takeaway that I took to all the VCons, but I thought was super important and glad that I did in the first one, was literally saying hi to everyone like I made eye contact with. And even to the point of like, I felt so comfortable. And I think this is something I think anyone could probably agree with me that attended any of the VCons. I felt so comfortable interacting with complete strangers that I literally would like go up, and I think the sort of wine shop worker hospitality in me came out, where like I would go up to like a couple and be like, "Hey guys, my name's Daniel here. I'm just on site staff. Want to make sure you guys are having a good time. Any questions? You guys need anything? Blah blah blah." And it would either be, "No, I'm okay," and then kind of move on from there, or it would lead to a deeper conversation. What I would learn about where they're coming from, what they do, how they found out about VeeFriends, Veecon, etc. And so that was a big key takeaway. I think we all can agree. First Veecon is just uber special, and I just wanted to be super intentional uh,
Mm,
about meeting as many people as possible.
that was no, that makes total sense. So from I think everyone was just figuring it out. Like
Yeah,
no one really knew what it was going to be. We just knew it was going to be awesome, and we knew like we were going to see all of these people that we never met before. So that totally aligns. Obviously, there's feedback
for
coming
sure.
from your end, and it was very evident. And you guys, there were some spaces I think going into 23, more of a prep. Like this is what to expect. I know the events team
Yes,
that came on board was
massive,
born in the middle of that gap between 1 and 2, Mylin and Savan. So that there was an up level. Like it was very apparent that like things just happened. Um, as far as like that, like you have all this feedback. Um, you know, there's too much walking, and like some of it's like, come on, and some of it is, and I know you have to treat it all the same,
for
but
sure.
I think we all can agree that some things are a little bit more important than others. So you get all this feedback, like you know, talk to us like how do you even like begin to like synthesize that, and like how far in advance are you planning like those implementing changes? I know like in a, it takes a lot of time, so I'm just curious of the timeline. And I know 24 was a little bit deeper, but like just estimation wise, like how far in advance are you starting to be like, all right, we need to make this change, we need to really highlight this?
And Rob, you won't be surprised immediately. And I'm not even kidding. I wasn't able to attend, but I did jump into some phone calls along the way. But there was, and I don't know if this has been public or not, but it's nothing bad at all. But there was an offsite after the first VCon. It was a straight post mortem, like
Mm,
literally, and to a degree, also team bonding, relaxing, enjoying,
yeah.
celebrating. But there was a concerted moment the day after VCon ended of an offsite to debrief postmortem what went right so we could go 110 on it next year. What went wrong slash how can we improve and get better, which is always the case. And so it was immediately, Rob. It was what were the pain points, and so roundtable, everyone kind of what they saw, what they've heard on the timeline, Discord, etc. And then you would hear the patterns, right? Of okay,
Mm,
10 people saying the same thing, that's an issue, right?
yeah.
XYZ. And so it was pretty immediate where not only was feedback being discussed and synthesized, action then taken soon after. And to your point, shout out to Milan and Savan shortly after we announced an events department within the team. So from that announcement day, there's obviously a bunch of legwork to coming to that point. And I believe it was that summer. So again, I think Gary and team, Andy, et cetera, acted super quickly to already look ahead to the next VCon and how we can get better and really listening to feedback. And then I think it's a combination as we look to then Indianapolis in 23, just trusting the top shelf talent that then joined us. Um, yeah, the merch. I'm looking at the comments now. The merch line was chaotic, but trusting the talent that's on the team, and so we were so lucky to have Milan and Savan that have a wealth of experience of events, sponsorships, activations, and internally being able to lean more on that type of execution and have more ability to sort of curate from there. And honestly, the biggest thing, at least in my involvement, to be able to integrate, and again, shout out to both of them for their support, was the Veecon community stage, and to have
Yeah, that's
speakers within our community be integrated. Like that to me was, in addition, like such a massive part of the evolution of Veecon. And
that
that's
was a
where, yeah, India is a
sorry,
special
go ahead,
place.
go ahead.
No, I mean, that's to me, 22 Minneapolis was special, was the first. 23 to me was incredibly special because of the true integration of community speakers, outside of just community events that were going on. Like the actual integration with the event itself, I thought was a landmark moment, especially on day one. And
Mm,
then I think the rest kind of speaks to itself, right? Field day, the activations,
right.
the nuances and differences we saw there, from signage, right, to branding, and the different things that we saw in stadium as well. Slide, card night, Uno tournament, the evolution I thought was phenomenal.
3, yeah, 23 might be, if I had to, like
Yeah,
everything, all of them are special in their own way.
yeah,
If I had to, like 23 might be my favorite.
special one.
It for a lot of those reasons you just said. But anyway, so the community stage, which was awesome. I love the backdrop, just
Beautiful.
where it was. Like field day was so awesome. Was incorporating the community, and I think the answer is yes. Just like thinking back to spaces, but incorporating the community, was that one of the patterns you saw?
100%.
Okay, so
To me, it was a no brainer.
mhm,
Obviously, when we're putting on an event that we want to be 10 out of 10, go to market, advertise, etc. We're going for A-list, big names as speakers, and also within the ecosystem,
mhm,
etc. But at the same token as well, within our community, we have so many people of talent across, and this goes back to the earlier question of sub communities and interest. We have so many talented people and experts in their field and enthusiasts and stories to tell. And so it just became abundantly obvious. And obviously, Gary was all about it. And so having all the cosigns internally, it just made all the sense in the world. And I'm super grateful for it.
yeah, it was really awesome. And I know at the time there was a lot of. I mean, first of all, do you remember how many applications you got?
It's definitely over five, six, 700. If I had to guess a number and we have the data, I would probably say like 800.
Wow.
I'll go high. I'll go high.
So
It was a lot.
that's, I mean, not an easy position to be in, to whittle 800 down to whatever it
Yeah.
was, 15 or 20.
Yep.
Um,
2025.
and I remember it wasn't, if you, unless you took the time to dig in, and really listen to the actual talks and to dig into the resumes of the people that were selected. A lot of people, there was a lot of pushback because maybe some of the most um, like forward facing, active, like VeeFriends people were not selected in that first year. However, there were some very intelligent, smart, talented people in that crop of speakers. And it wasn't until like you kind of look back and say, okay, that made a lot of sense, as far as delivering value. So, I mean, am I remembering that wrong? I think there
No,
was,
you're right. You're absolutely right. And it's the most difficult thing in the world because you wish there were more hours in the day
yeah,
and more field days for VCon to have more people be part of it. But my thinking and thought process, and I think a lot of people probably align with it. I think at times in like a flow chart type of visual where, if whether it's initiated through me or someone from the team says, "Do you want the community involved in this blank?"
hmm,
My answer is always intrinsically yes, even if it means, okay, but it can only be one, or we can only have five,
yeah,
or it's super limited, or you may get negative feedback from someone who didn't. And to me, I think that just comes with the territory, and it just puts more onus internally to be as extremely thoughtful in the curation, extremely thoughtful of how you communicate throughout the entire way. Because at the end of the day, we're all human and we're not robots. And you know,
Mm-hmm.
there's are there needs for templated emails and responses? Sure, but at this level, like have that sense of one-to-one nuance of communication within the community and broader of what we're doing and why. I think it's just super important. But at the end of the day, my flowchart mind always goes to, would you like the community involved? Yes, please. And then we go from there. We figure it out, make it work. And there's also other things, right, that come into play. There may be particular focuses that the team may want to have involved with Veecon on certain topics or themes and things of that nature. And so we, to a certain degree, we may have certain thematic panels we need to have. And so that may dictate reverse engineering selection and things of that nature. So extremely difficult. A lot of people are involved. You know, I'm not here to say that I handpicked by any means. It
Right.
was a very big team effort. But yeah, just incredible, and I'm super happy it happened.
Yeah, I mean, I don't envy being in that position. You know, there's
It's
only a
worth
certain
it.
number
It's
of
so
slots,
worth it.
but overall, like it's a symbol of like, okay, we did this. We're taking the feedback, we're listening to it, and this is how we're implementing it. Which was a lot. I mean, it was all over that. You know, the more we talk about it, I'm getting into that mindset, that moment in time, and I'm remembering all the little things. You know, people complain about all the walking in the big stadium, and everything was kind of closer together in that year too. So, as far as you, like, what do you, just for fun, like, what are you doing? You could go, you know, year two, year three, maybe how it changed from two or three. Like, what are you doing on the day to day? I know you were like all over the place in LA this past year.
For
But
sure.
give us like a quick 30 seconds on like what you were doing and some of the fun little BTS like tasks.
I like it. And I'll go really quick. From the first VCon, it was just everywhere all at once. From the basement, putting sticker packs together and folding hoodies and doing merch stuff, to handing out Steve Aoki free tickets to attendees, to whatever they needed me to do for the first VCon. VCon 2, a lot more focus on making sure community speakers were taken care of, making sure that field day was going as planned, but less work than the first one because of the
Mm-hmm.
event team and a lot of the outside staff and local staff we had for help, which was amazing. And then for LA, a little bit like, again, VCon number 2, making sure that Voices of VCon, the new branded that we had for year 3, speakers were taken care of, stage was good, but even less on-site support needed because, again, the events team on staff support was very helpful. But honestly, connecting with the community, like back to the whole hospitality, is everyone having a good time? Making sure the waters were being refilled because it was hot during the
Mm-hmm.
days when we were on the outside versus inside venues, and just being everywhere all at once, just making sure everyone was having a good time and connecting as much as possible.
I love that. Like, Savvy, not so savvy living. Our dear friend Savvy, when she
Gee.
says, when Daniel came up to me at VCon and knew my name, I was shocked and
Oh,
made me feel special. I will treasure that memory. And then H Town says, Daniel is a G. Him and Jeremy were both genuinely excited to meet me IRL. Once they read my name tag and Daniel bent over backwards to get me into the Uno tournament just because, core memories I'll never forget.
that's
Love it.
amazing.
You guys are hanging out at the end. You'll have some opportunities to ask Daniel some questions. We'll do a little mini Q&A. Thanks for being here. So, um, yeah, the tournaments too, like all these community events. The Uno at this past one was such a
Bonkers.
good time,
Bonkers.
so fun. So like it's really appreciated when we, you know, it's a lift for a lot of people to get there. I mean, you were only a couple exits away,
I
but
got
for
super lucky. Honestly, Rob, to your point, that's a big one. That's a big
yeah.
one that I think was thematically in our mind for all of them, but especially the last two, again, as we're doing learnings and postmortem,
Mm-hmm.
really putting into the back of the mind, and especially LA, like if we're being transparently honest, when you think of markets like LA, New York versus a mini or indie pricing, etc., the big thing is how do we make this weekend so special, from the tangible of the activations and the meeting of the speakers and again the activations, game night, etc., Uno, to the intangible of like, again, the thoughtful interactions, connecting, whatever the case may be. That was uber important. And I think for the most part, Rob, I think the one thing I told almost everyone that I connected with was, who do you, I think the line I said was, genie in a bottle. You could meet one person standing in front of you that is this title, working in this industry, or just this type of person. Like, who do you need to meet? Do you need to meet a content creator? Do you need to meet a graphic designer? Do you need to meet a CEO of a plumbing company? Do you need to meet a dentist? Like, I was more in connective tissue mind of like, who do I need to get Rob to interact with during VeeCon? Like, what's going to
Mm-hmm.
bring him that type of value from a networking perspective? Because I think that's a big point that I got from the first VeeCon is the panels were great, speeches were great, but the tangible of connecting with like-minded people or networking from more of like an entrepreneurial business perspective, there was a need and desire for more of that. And then just at my small scale level, what could I do to be that glue to get you to connect with, whether it was a panel speaker or just an attendee? How can I help make that
Yeah,
connection happen so there's meaning after VeeCon in that way?
that makes sense. And
Yeah.
that's evident because I mean, we could say it a million different ways, but at the end of the day, like everyone's just friendly and looking to. I mean, for you guys, the guys wearing the official shirts, like you're all have that mindset and want everyone to have the best time, and it just symbiotic, and everyone just has the best time ever. So, and last time in our first conversation, I asked you, we know VCon 2024 is in LA. Where's VCon 2025? You as a VeeFriends PR 4.0 student crushed the answer and then dropped Rainbow Planet. How at what point in the calendar did you know that this was going to be the last VCon before a hiatus? Not the last VCon, but the last VCon.
The last announced sort of
Correct.
VeeCon for the year. Yep. It's a great question. Honestly, it very late in the game, very late in the game, to the point where it was probably one of the days at VeeCon. I think,
Wow.
yeah, it was that to the and because what I think there was a lot of, with any business, any type of event, etc. There's always changes, considerations for many reasons, from a strategy, business development, legal, whatever the case may be. And so, without knowing, because before I say anything, I don't know the ins and outs of the strategy or the call that was made
Hmm.
for that, at the time. And I think honestly, from Gary's perspective and the events team, I think there was a need to make sure that any official news outside of the 3 years of VeeCon to be, pretty close to the vest, until
Hmm.
anything was more made official. And so I was made aware before, just kind of like, and I appreciate, and I believe it was Andy, and I appreciated him for that, where we just had to sit down and just a talk of like, hey, really important. Want you to know, obviously, with the community, and I know this is important, obviously, to you and everyone. Want to sit down and kind of let you know the news of what Gary is going to talk about, the announcement of that it's not the last VeeCon, but no further official updates from there. And so I really appreciated that just transparency and honesty, and I'm excited. To me, it's enough to hear it's not the last. That's just exciting. I think all of us agree that's amazing. Let's be honest, I'm sure there's a 50-50 chance that some of us felt we were going to hear the words of, this is the last VeeCon. Like, thanks for coming,
Yeah. It was kind of
XYZ.
that. It was that cloud, amongst all the great
Yes.
conversations, and
Yep.
it was just like that lingering cloud. I remember.
100%.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it was an epic slide in the deck,
Yes.
and some
Which
good
is so
good
not
photo
Gary,
op.
which is the best that he went there with the deck.
Yeah. Um, Very cool. Obviously the performances were great. As far, VeeCon can mean a lot of little things. How do you guys, and I saw Katie in the chat, VeeFriends Boston.
Mm,
There's a lot of meetups, events, and I know there's a certain focus on TCG tournaments because that's big and that's that gets people in playing the game, and those are official events. But are you guys, how do you think about, and I know you're great at supporting, but other than that and like showing up, do you guys think about like, going circling back to our affiliate, our
yes.
conversation about, tapping people on the shoulder? Do you guys think about like what if we had like sanctions, like a tricky word, a supported
Yeah.
event, you know, that are not just, we let go by the wayside and maybe comment on socials, but a little bit more than that, because we know how much magic happens at them. Is that something that's on your radar? That
Yeah, no, it's such a great question because to your point, we've seen it throughout the years from shout out to Katie and take up in Boston, Canada, LA, like we can go across the globe really. Yeah, I think it's definitely something we think about that's important, but I think as we've seen throughout the years, at least as of now, it hasn't been a big focus for a number of reasons, right? VCon obviously the last 3 years being the focal event that a lot of resources and energy. But I think the way that we've typically looked at it for now, to your point, is pairing those types of events and experiences with official events we're doing, whether it's at trade shows that we're going to be attending,
yeah,
really trying to follow Gary's sort of schedule of where he's going to be traveling and how can we make the most of it, to really integrate Gary, and focus on like for example, I think it was end of last year where he went to London for a 3-hour pop-up for holders, where we had a token gated RSVP sheet, which is a ton of fun, or the NOLA event for gift goats.
yeah,
And so I think to your point, we've seen more of like official VeeFriends events that are either regional targeted or holder based events, a la gift goat, a la access tokens, etc. Hangout Hawks had an open invite to the Vayner office for their last session, which is really cool from IRL. So I think we're seeing more of that. I would be in the camp of I would definitely like to see more of, for a lack of a better official term, like mini VCon moments, like you said, again, whether it's Boston, Canada, New York, LA, Florida, Texas, etc. I think
yeah.
that's something personally I have an appetite to want to support more. But I think at the moment it's not something that is like a concerted focus just quite yet. But to me, as we continue to grow and scale, I think it's an inevitable at some point because to your
Mm.
point, that type of energy and bringing togetherness, outside of like official VeeFriends tournaments or official Gary meetups. It doesn't have to just be that. It can literally just be how we can connect VeeFriends from around the world to have these pockets of moments and enjoyment with each other, which is really important.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's, from a legal perspective, I know that there's a fine line. What can be VeeFriends? What is a VeeFriends event? What is VeeFriends supported? What does that mean? Liability, all of that. So, um,
All the fun legal stuff.
right. All right. So I want to get a little bit of my favorite game. Remember when so much has
Yeah.
happened? Uh, and you're so good. Some people just come on here and just like know the assignment and know that like we love to nerd out on the behind the curtain uh stuff, BTS. So you are like, before we start, like give us another, like you found out the VCon thing pretty late, like a typical, like let's take the Tops Chrome, like everybody found out October 17th. Like when are you seeing it on like the deck, like when you're sitting in the
Yeah.
meeting, be like, holy shit, like there's the Topps Chrome and VeeFriends logos together.
Yeah, it was pretty early on in 2024. Oh, probably actually, Rob, shortly after we talked, if not around that time at the end of 23, early 24.
And is that typical, or is every partnership different?
Every partnership is different, and I think it depends on which department it hits and things of that nature. Um, but this one was pretty early, just because I think of the importance of it. Man, I want to get the exact date because I may be like earlier than I can remember, but it was 2024 for sure. And so for many things, preparing for Comic-Con, right, being the sort of flagship moment where we're going to announce, unveil, and have the Notorious Ninja card, which lines through blocking people from going to booths.
Yep.
And now we're seeing the excitement that's come from that and leading to Tops now. But it was early on, and I definitely had like a, oh, this is pretty big. Just knowing the Topps brand, and just being shout out to Rips throughout the years. Rips has educated me from sending clips on super stickers and backstories to collectibles and learning about Topps and Topps Chrome. Yeah, 2024 early, big deal was like the reaction.
All right. So talk to us. I kind of working almost in we're hopping all over the place here. But the first comic, DJ came on board. The first comic ever was about when we talked last time too, December 29, 2023. When you learned about the comics, saw them, like, as far as and you always have those kind of multiple lenses on you as a fan,
Yeah,
and you as like, okay, how are we going to package this community? How's this going to affect the community? So, I mean, we could talk about the whole comics ecosystem, because it started out with just bringing out a comic artist, and then he's going every day, and now we have this gift code thing, and now it's Gary is like, this could be it. Like, this could be the thing. What were your early thoughts? How has that evolved and playing into what you do every day?
a couple things. First, DJ, and we all know, is a rock star. Like 10 out of 10 rock star. He's at a comic convention in LA as we speak. He's just a rock star. Um, Admittedly, when DJ started, I wasn't too familiar, but I immediately like learned fast as soon as I learned internally that DJ was going to join the team. And it didn't take very long for me to realize that this guy just knows his stuff, super talented, dedicated, and he's just like in it. Like he's just super on pulse of the space in and of itself, and has so seamlessly just kind of woven his place into the community. And it didn't take long. The minute that I heard that he said, "Sure, Gary, I can do a comic every day," I was like, "All right, here we go." Like the minute I heard that he was game for that, I couldn't be more pumped. And I think in early on, I remember being in a meeting with him. It was like one of those meetings where my meeting's ending with Gary, DJ's coming on to talk with Gary and Andy, and I was able to sit in it for a couple of minutes, and just kind of hear a quick snippet before dropping off of like ideas that Gary had in DJ, and then kind of riffing, was just awesome. So he's totally the guy for this and for us, and I couldn't be more excited for the future of comics, and the way that he is able to so seamlessly integrate community feedback, ideas,
Hmm.
or even integration within the comics, like we've seen in the past. And so I think he's done an amazing job. Shout out to the entire team. And then just naturally, I'm going to shout out Corso after working for him for many years and seeing him now move over to the comics side of the house. Just super pumped to see everything that they're doing. And you hit it on the head, Gift Goat. The Gift Goats had a call that I fortunately was on with DJ, Gary, Chris on the team internally, who did the artwork inside of the comic. J. Scott Campbell did the cover, but he did all of
Mm-hmm.
the artwork within the comic. I was blown away because I wasn't so close to the details of the comics themselves, for number one, and even future comics. I was blown away. as to your point, as Daniel, like a fan of VeeFriends, the brand and the messaging and the character development, I was blown away of the work of DJ and Chris for comic number 1 and the sneak peeks that I saw for the upcoming comics character development and storylines. Um, I was pumped. I was pretty pumped and pretty floored. And for me, it's like after seeing what we've seen, Rob, throughout the years and different partnerships and big names, we can become a little bit numb of like partner with Reebok, partner with Squishmallows, partner
Right.
with Tops, and like these are no joke partnerships. I was blown away of just the internal work and creativity from and talent from Chris and DJ on comics coming up.
Yeah, so that's exciting to hear. And it really hit home for me, like this whole notion of like we're early, we're early, we're early. That's awesome. But and I'm referring to a space today. We're talking on February 20th, 2025. The space you did where Gary popped on yesterday, so February 19th, really hit home for me when he was talking about like we don't know these characters yet. Like we kind of people latched on. So it really struck me when he was like, most of you by January, this next January, are gonna have a whole new favorite character because you're gonna actually know who it is. Which really was impacted me and was like, huh, like yeah, we're super early. Like we don't know who they are. So it's exciting from a storytelling perspective. And it's always fun. Jeremy's always a storyteller. It's fun to see his enthusiasm. And when Corso went over there, like that was a big move because you know,
Massive.
he's never leaving. He's a staple of
He's crushing it.
of what we're trying to do here. So cool. So let's pop over to. I missed my date. I need my date. So July 16, 2024, Meet in the Middle, first children's book, huge for demographic parent, like maybe the first time you saw Gary on CNBC for one of it's big when Gary's on CNBC.
Yeah.
So
100%. This was definitely in 2023. To me, what hit me the most was the concept, the whole meet me in the middle flip book. I just thought was really cool, and different. And also, I had a sense of like, for me, that release was like a finally release. Like, oh, fine, like yes, like a kid's book has been something to me that has always felt like it was a matter of when, not if, from the early days.
right.
And I'm really trying to roll back the clock here. Obviously, the comics has been huge and will be huge in character development, but there could be an argument to be said that Meet Me in the Middle might be one of the first early sort of character development stories, if you will, for both Patient Pig and Eager Eagle, and how their traits were really sort of showcased and defined for good or for bad, if you will, and the whole meaning of balance, and how I think the sort of notion and trait of balance, we're seeing a thematic uh, uh,
Yes.
injection of it in the best way possible. And so to me, that was my first time seeing it be so evident in the storyline. And so I thought that was really fun. And then I also thought it was fun. I can't remember who it was, but I believe there were two characters that Gary mentioned, and I should know. I think I was on the stream where he said it, but those weren't the original characters. And the publishing company said, no, we can't use those. They're not going to work. And so we had to
Yeah.
actually switch them out.
I can't remember the characters either, but I remember that.
Yeah,
And it was a good point because the demo won't grasp on to those
exactly.
those feelings, those traits.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good one. We'll have to make a mental note to look at. That'll be a good piece of trivia.
Jeremy knows. Jeremy knows.
Jeremy definitely knows. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the September 2024 YouTube cartoon, VeeFriends cartoon,
Yeah.
Moonbug. That's a huge, huge play, huge space to be in, huge collab.
Huge.
Where were you when you saw that?
That was again 2023, potentially. You know what? It might even be early 2023. I knew that one for a while, And that one, I couldn't wait for that. That one was one where I couldn't wait. And behind, I'll kind of go behind the curtain a bit. I remember as early as it not even being a done deal era of like
Mm-hmm.
discussions, figuring out how, like, is this going to even be a thing, etc. And so I remember being excited because at that time, my son was a year and a half. And so I was very familiar with the Moonbug brand and the shows and sort of like the high caliber. Without that, I would have been like, Moonbug who? Like, who is this?
Right, right.
But when I found out, I was like, this is this is massive. Putting VeeFriends' name alongside the likes of Blippi, Coco Melon, etc., just from a name brand recognition and how they're crushing it in the space. I just knew it was going to be a big deal, and I was just crossing my fingers and toes every day to hear the news of we got it. Like that's kind of where my energy was at. But for me, it was exciting. Of like that was probably the first like, wow, this is crazy, this is massive. If we can land this, this is such a big deal. Not only for the partnership, but bringing the characters to life like in an animated way is such a big deal that yeah, I couldn't have been more excited when I heard that we even had the opportunity, and then every day since, fingers crossed that we were going to land it.
Mm. Yeah, so big. And as of today, we can say that we have Saturday morning cartoons checked off, and we have Sunday comics checked off. Announcement today
Yes.
that the partner with Lee
Yep. The Enterprises.
Publications,
Yep.
we're gonna have a weekly Sunday comic in there, which has been referenced by Gary a lot in his content over, talking about comments when he's riffing. But and here we go. He's doing it. So, um, when did you find that out? This is a good test because it happened
It's very
today.
recent. Yeah, yeah. This one moved quickly. This was probably actually I think early this year. I wasn't as close to it because I think it was more comic initiative, but early this year, like right when we got off from holiday break, first week of January, I knew this was coming, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." And I think we can all agree. I posted a comment in Discord earlier today of like VeeFriends is going to be everywhere, whether it's again Squishmallows, streetwear, apparel, cartoons, comics, Sunday comics. Like every demo, every person needs, like, I just want to imagine and realize that because of this Lee Enterprise, that there may be a moment where you could talk, like grandma could talk to you and be like, have you heard of VeeFriends? I just saw this funny comic, yada yada yada. And then so and so's like, how do you, like, grandma, how do you know about V? Like, I just feel like I love the idea that we're trying to be everywhere. We're going to
Mm.
hit every audience. People are going to know VeeFriends, what we're about, what we're doing. And so I think this announcement, again, is another testament to the different mediums and ways of people all around the world, and in this case, nationwide, to continue to be aware and learn about VeeFriends through comics.
It's fascinating because yeah, it's like what other Web3 company is putting content in newspapers, right? And it's also like, you know, another Gary like receipt because he's always like, I just go where the attention is. And people still read newspapers, specifically on Sundays.
Literally,
So amazing. So with that, I ideated a new mini show within this show,
do it.
and I love when DJ reads some comics. So with your permission, this could be a historic moment, because we love DJ reading, but I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have all of the VeeFriends staff that comes on the show read a comic? So I pulled out uh, the 80/20 rule from June 5th, 2024. Does June 5th have any symbolic meaning to you?
June 5th, the day after 4th of July. Let me
Is that
see.
is that your birthday? Or do
June,
people just say happy birthday to you and it was one of those weird things where everyone says it and it's not your birthday?
one of those. June 10th is my birthday, but June 5th is still a lovely day.
Uh, everyone I re- that happens a lot in social media world,
It does.
Twitter. Um, so you must have been like, why is everyone saying happy birthday to me?
You know what? You know what it was, Rob? I remember it completely. June 5th, I'm gonna guess, was a Wednesday, and I'm gonna guess that Jeremy gave me a shout out because I was off for a week with friends and family out in the desert, just like completely
Got it.
checked out of like the digital. I'm almost gonna assume it was a Wednesday 5-5 where he was kind enough to be like, everyone, let's
It's
Ray
Daniel's
Daniel, wish
birthday.
him happy birthday. He's not here, but let's wish him a happy birthday.
Oh, all right. Well,
So
we
special.
got it. Just like this show and not wavering. We're gonna stick with June 5th, the 80/20 rule. The first ever VeeFriends comic reading. Daniel, this is episode 1, the 80/20 rule. All right. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay, June 5th, 2024. June 5th, not Daniel's birthday, his birthday week. Here we go. Why don't you pick it up with Driven Dragon?
Are you suffering from meetings? Help us, Driven Dragon! Or how about a never ending to do list, constant task switching, killing your drive? That's me. What can I do? I've got the cure. Burn it. 80% of this doesn't even matter. Now focus on the 20% that does matter and reclaim your productivity. We're free.
Let's go. And there it is, Gary and DJ right there. That's June 5th, 2024. Amazing.
That's awesome. I don't
Thank
think
you.
I'll be hired on for any voiceover gigs anytime soon.
Hey, I did not prep. Daniel did not have had zero idea he was had to do that. Reading on the spot.
That's
And you
awesome.
had a little expletive in there. I was thinking about how you're going to play it. But I think you played it perfectly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys, in just 2 minutes, you'll have opportunity to ask Daniel some questions. If you're not, for those that aren't going for giveies in the stream, Daniel, such a pleasure to have you on again. Really appreciate your time. I'm going to do one more question before the last segment here. So, I usually this is like a pillar staple question, but I don't think we hit it last time. Community, like, what does that word even mean to you?
A lot. It's everything. Like it's everything. It's literally. I'm gonna use all the cliches. The fuel that keeps the engine going, the heartbeat that is. Like it's everything. It's everyone. Uh, it's culture. It's communication. It's support. It's everything through the good and the bad, the highs and the lows. It's being there. Um, man, I rarely do I go speechless. It's to me, like, simply put, community is everything. It's the oxygen, and without it, you can't. That's it.
I love it. And I can't believe we didn't hit that question last time, but yeah, it's such a hard question to. It's a word that gets thrown around, but like when you dig in, especially in our world, like it's fascinating to see the vantage points, perspectives of how people feel about it. Here we go. Another segment, one that might be familiar with, Micro Macro Spitfire Round 2 with Daniel Donayre. I'm going to throw a whole bunch of quick questions at you. You can answer one word in the macro, or you can really articulate why it is your answer. Here we go. Number one, as a father of 2 that works remotely, what is one tip you have to stay as an organized ostrich?
I love it. That was so good. You caught me off guard with the ostrich. Um, patience,
Patience.
patience, thoughtfulness,
Let's go.
patience and thoughtfulness. I think what I learned rather quickly, Rob, as a parent, I think you could appreciate this, is like, especially for the first one in the early days, having the patience. It's not every day is not going to be easier. Go as you plan with kids, and now having more, having 2. Being patient and being okay with it. It's okay that there's a mess. It's okay that the room's not clean. It's okay that you may spilling coffee on yourself as you're getting breakfast ready for the kids. Having patience and being thoughtful. When my son may be, upset at something and maybe crying or yelling, being thoughtful, like meet him where he is and ask why he's feeling that way or what's gotten him to that place versus being upset that he's there. Thoughtfulness and patience, I think, is everything.
I love it, and I love that you have the props ready to go. Um, if we walked into a 15-year-old Daniel's room, what poster are we seeing on the wall?
Wow, what a great question. Wow. Um, so at that time, music was pretty big in sports. So I would say I probably had like a Beatles or John Lennon poster, like actually
Oh
just
wow.
loving music. And then probably a band like The Strokes that was like more rock, modern type style. And then either a Kobe Bryant poster or a Rafael Nadal poster because that's all I did was play basketball and tennis throughout my years.
I didn't know the tennis thing.
Le- quick tangent story so I don't take too much time off everyone here, but tennis was a random sport that I fell in love with after middle school going into high school. Played basketball all my life, loved it. In middle school went to Laker camps in Santa Barbara every year to just try to hone in skills, get better, etc. And I literally had a moment in time going into high school where I completely was over analytical, doubting myself in that fear of failure, that I wasn't a good enough player to play up for the high school team, and doing silly math that 6 different middle schools are coming to this high school. So I have to be a top 4 player. Am I even
Yeah.
good at that? And so I was so in my head. My best friend was going to play tennis and he's like, you should try it out. And so to me, tennis was the safe option to go that just to have fun. And so I don't have any regrets because I literally spent every day of that summer playing tennis and falling in love with a sport that now I play to this day that wouldn't have otherwise have been exposed to and realized that, wow, this is actually a really tough sport, but a really fun and fulfilling one as well.
I love that. I had no idea. My grandfather put a racket in my hand when I was 3, and it's been a part of my life ever since. Like I have a decade of head coaching under like varsity head coaching
Oh,
under
okay,
my
so
belt.
we gotta rally sometime. That's
We
amazing.
do.
Pickleball or tennis, amazing,
I'm actually just getting back in because I took a little hiatus. I played on a team down here, whatever.
amazing.
But after the twins were born, I had to
Yeah,
took a step back. But now I'm like, I've had the itch because it's been a year and a half.
I love it. It's right. It takes time, but when you're out there, it's just riding a bike. It's a ton of
It's the
fun.
best. It's the best.
It's so cool.
Uh, wow. Like I'm
Great
so happily
question.
blown back. All right. Favorite movie?
Man, that one's tough. I'm gonna go. I don't know if anyone has seen this. Ex Machina. Love that movie. Absolutely love that
I
movie.
don't think I have.
Worth watching. It's with Oscar Isaac and oh my gosh, I'm not gonna remember the other actor. Fantastic movie. I actually don't even want to spoil it. If you and Chels have a night where you're like, let's watch something cool, sci-fi, thought provoking, etc. To me, it has like a little philosophical Matrix vibe without the whole sort of world, etc. But Ex Machina, um, a newer movie that I fell in love with that I thought was like so wild.
Oh,
Yeah,
noted. We know you. We talked about your drumming last time, but what is a secret talent you have that we don't know?
I got nothing, Rob. I got nothing for. You know what? I would say, mm, yeah, drumming was going to be my go-to answer. Honestly, and this is like not really talent, but something that I try to be intentional about is being being as much of empathy elephant and perspective pigeon as I can. And I hope that's not too much of a cop-out answer, but I think throughout time in my life, I've always like had that intention to always be like uber empathetic to just people and scenarios and situations without compromising my own integrity and values and views, and just having perspective of from rabbit hole things of like why someone is doing something negative, like what's that deeper story, like that person didn't necessarily wake up the morning to do this bad thing that led them to do this. Something was either done onto them, potentially nature versus nurture, without going into a crazy rabbit hole. From a young
Yeah.
age to now, that's just always been at the forefront of just how I operate. So I wouldn't say it's a talent, but just something that to this day is something I continually, like a muscle, trying to
Yeah.
improve and
It's
integrate
certainly
better.
a skill that needs to be trained. And I
Yeah.
remember you talking about like your dad,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
you would
exactly.
have open conversations about that, and it was a big part of your life, which totally makes sense. And that gets, that gets pulled down the generations.
Yes.
Um, it's not easy for everyone. So I love that answer.
So good.
Your favorite? Here's another toughie.
Yeah.
Things get harder in round two, right, Daniel? Uh, what's your favorite physical piece of VeeFriends memorabilia?
Oh my god, it's gotta be the organized ostrich Nikes right now. I think man, that's a toughie. I'll say the most popular one in the household is Adventurous Astronaut Squishmallow by far is like the most popular. My son loves rocket ships, space, planets, etc. And so Adventurous Astronaut's like basically the superhero of the household, which is really, really cool. At a personal level, man, this one's so tough. Yeah, my gut's going with the Squishmallow. You know what? I'm gonna say just for like OGs, VeeFriends Uno. That was the first like tangible we can play at home as a family. That was the first, in my eyes, big partnership. And I remember when I first joined the team, that was like on the deck of like, hey, this is what's coming, and got me just really excited. Partnering with a big brand like Mattel. And I think like a lot of our partnerships, Rob, you see as like there's stepping stones that help lead to the next thing.
Sure.
Without Uno, there's no Masters of the Universe, right?
Yeah.
Because without that built-in relationship, it doesn't go to that next level. I'm gonna go VeeFriends Uno. I was able to play that with my friends, teach them about VeeFriends, love Uno. Um, and you want to talk about rolling the clock back of like a VeeFriends first, um, underrated.
VeeFriends Uno is the so crucial, and so forgotten about. Big Dave, shout out Big Dave. Big Dave like
Huge,
completed his like set and
crazy.
like posted about it, and no one gave a shit. I was like, this is cool.
It's pretty
People like get out of their seats and applause like much less. And I was like, this is awesome. So yeah, I totally am with you. VeeFriends Uno gets no love. We look
underrated,
back, it's gonna be the ultimate.
100%. And like the answer is like, what was the first ever VeeFriends cards ever? Like actually, VeeFriends Uno.
Yep.
Like when you
And I
actually
remember like that was the first thing that was like
physically, yeah,
affordable.
yes,
25 bucks.
all the things. And again, play like, yeah, massive.
Like if you missed out on a VF1 or Zero Cool, it was Uno. I love that answer. Um, have you started watching The Office yet?
You remember? You know what? Rob, you're the
I
best.
get emotional about The Office.
You're the absolute best for bringing up The Office. I'm gonna be super candid. Not even close. Like not even to the point of like hovering over the title and like clicking into episode one. But you know what? I'm literally going to make a commitment to you, and I'm watching an episode this week. I'm gonna DM you like a quote from episode one that stands out. To one, see if you know what I'm talking about, and two, to kind of hat tip to you that I finally at least saw episode one.
I love that, and it takes the the first few, if I'm remembering correctly, are a little rocky. Like you got
Okay,
to push to like 3, 4 maybe. Um, but yeah,
that's so hysterical. You brought that up. And two things I'll say on Office really quick, Rob. It was a show that like it was on NBC, so I may have like flipped it on and like saw, like for example, I remember there's an episode of like I think I can't remember. They're like driving in a van or something. I may not be remembering the Details, but I think like Dunder Mifflin got bought out or something, and they're using like a church van. some weird
Michael Scott
episode.
left. He started his own paper company, Michael Scott
Yes,
Paper Company.
it was that. And so I'm like, what am I watching? And then for whatever reason, I started watching like the, no spoilers, but the very end where like a high profile actor that we all know kind of
Yeah.
came in. So I saw that piece of it. So I have like a
Oh
weird.
yeah. So you're all over the place.
I got to start from square one and like really educate myself.
Amazing. I'm gonna throw one more.
Please, I'm here
Um,
for it. I'm here for it.
what don't we know about Andy? He's your boss. He's
Yeah,
he's he's getting more out there.
he is.
But
Yeah,
what don't we know about Andy? Obviously, you know where I'm going with this. I'm not
yeah,
looking for like weird personal stuff, but like,
yeah. Three things, and two of them like may sound cliche, but genuinely mean it. Number one, like how much he cares. Like actually, like to the point of like from like a sort of work level of like emails and things like that for like requests and business stuff, what have you. But the amount of just like Saturday morning text, midnight his time text on the nooks and crannies of things and like how much he really cares is like I think maybe more now, like you're saying, because he's even more active in the Discord. You see him more on live streams, War Room, etc. How much, man, how much that guy cares about every nook and cranny of what VeeFriends is as president. Massive. How insane his schedule is because of it. Um, it's pretty nuts. So I think most people know he's a hooper. Like the
yep.
man can ball. The man can ball. And without giving it away, I don't know if he's publicly said this, but I think he owns like an Instagram handle of a particular country from just like being OG in Instagram days. And I don't know which country it is. And
Really?
sorry, Andy, if I'm doxing you or saying something publicly, but I'm almost so certain. I am certain. I just don't know which country. He owns a handle of a country's name, which I think is pretty dope.
Wow. That's cool, Alpha.
So there's the alpha, Andy. Sorry if I
Definitely
doxed you.
not on anyone's bingo card.
Yeah. So that one to me is a random of like you wouldn't know it unless you know it, and to a degree, I barely know it, but I know he does. I just can't remember which one.
Mm. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That's cool.
Yeah.
You understood the assignment. Uh, as with everything else that you do, we're so lucky to have you. You know, calling when you shared that you called every single gift goat and invited them to one of the events.
That's right, for
That
Atlanta.
stuck with me, and that says a lot about you.
Oh, of
And I appreciate you showing up to the
course.
VeeFam meetup in LA. That was very meaningful. You know,
That was fun, by the way.
fa-
You guys did a great job.
yeah, FaceTiming. FaceTiming when you could have been an email, or could have been a copy and paste, but FaceTiming about the voice of Veecon.
Yes.
That all of those little things is just a nice touch. So really appreciate it, and appreciate you being here and coming on. So real quick, if anybody has any questions for Daniel, we're gonna do a giveaway. You guys, there's 800 people in the other show tonight. If you ask a question, you're entered in the giveaway.
Woo! That's good odds.
He's gonna hang out for a couple more minutes. Let's see if we have
Yes.
anyone.
We're chilling. We're chilling.
Dom says, "Damn, I forgot how handsome Daniel was."
Dom, that's so sweet, man. Dom's a legend in his own right, man.
Yeah, Dom's OG.
He's OG. He's
Dom
local.
got invited to the OG stream.
He's the man.
He's definitely OG. You coming out to Houston for
Ooh.
Eclecticon? Have you been to any of the?
I've been to one of our earlier trade shows years ago, Designer Con in Orange County. I think it was in Anaheim. I was for that. I have not been to a trade show since. I'll say Collecticon Houston is not ruled out because that's all I'll say. Collecticon Houston is not ruled out.
Okay.
I'll leave it there for now.
Teacher Katie, what's the biggest thing that has changed since you started working there?
Beyond just seeing the team grow and really hone in, focus on sort of key pillars of what we're doing. What has changed? I think a lot. You know what? I'll say this, and I think we've been seeing it. The biggest thing I think I've seen change internally, culturally, and just strategically as a company is the emphasis on live streaming and Gary's nod to it, not only externally saying it, that live streaming, shopping, like it's always great to see Gary literally practice what he's preaching, and he's telling businesses, entrepreneurs, social media influencers, whomever, everything in between, that right now the social game is live stream and even live shopping, either or both integrated. And to see us use that playbook has been a massive change within not only the past year and a half, but even the past 6 months. And I think you're going to see more of it to hit more new people. And I think we've seen Gary obviously talk about that a lot in live stream of like who's new, who's new.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to source that data and we're trying to target new people to come in to learn about VeeFriends and come into the community. So I think live stream has been a big, big shift.
It's fascinating, and I think I talked about this last week or the last interview. It's fascinating. Like if you really dive into what he says, like watch what I do,
Yeah, yeah.
not what I say. Watch what I do. Like it's just fascinating to see him build this. From every little detail, every like word, and it looks like he's just going off the cuff, but he's so smart and he's thinking so many steps ahead. Um, it's really fascinating.
Yeah, 100%.
But and this isn't the week to like say it because he's been everywhere all day. But like I feel like if we're looking wider lens, like it's been much less of like a Gary driven. Like I feel like overall he's stepped back a lot. And again, we're in this moment, so he's in it. But it feels just like to baseline view, like oh, like we've seen a lot less Gary overall.
It's so interesting you say that because like I could see that to a degree, like you said, to a degree, like externally behind. And I think you know like everyone like that's like really tight community have been kind of watching since day one. The man is living, eating, breathing VeeFriends every single day. From what I see
Which
on
is
his
very
calendar, from what I see on his calendar to the daily text messages of like, and again, like the same thing I said about Andy is it's true about Gary of like the so much of the pulse of like I'm getting tweets from him about a tweet that he's seen to make sure we have eyes on it from a support perspective, or from make sure that they get educated, or do they need assistance, or this is an awesome story. Do you guys see this? Like he's so in the pulse and cares,
yeah.
and it just ripples up to the entire team where we're all in it and all hands on deck. And so from like the biz dev meetings that I'm in with him to strategy creative to on the pulse of community and vibes, definitely has just been like that for every day that I've been here, which is awesome to see. Because you wonder, right? Like, is he actually, and he is to the 10th power. And then to your point, now with Tops is such a big deal in live streaming again, to keep it growing and growing, to get more people to care about VeeFriends. And it's awesome to hear him say like to drive to, the pinnacle of the digital collectibles series 2, as well as the Grail series 1, has been awesome to see. And that's the roadmap of the onboarding and education and sort of, character maxis, to a
Yeah.
certain degree. And we could talk all day about every character only has 40 series. And so if you got 40 legit character maxis of the Chill Chinchilla, there may never be a series 1 Chill Chinchilla up for grabs the way that character maxis, collectors, and brand affinity goes. And so I think continue to lay those bricks in foundation for, again, affinity for what we're doing and what these characters actually mean and represent.
Mm. Dom, it looks like we have two more. Dom says, "Can I buy you lunch? Let's hang."
Yeah, Dom, that's like 1,000%. Like we should DM it like immediately after this ends because we're local. I haven't seen you since the spec brunch, which is criminal. And you're just awesome. And no, you don't
And
even have to buy me lunch. Like, I'll buy you lunch.
and Savvy says, if you look at who you were 10 years ago and who you want to be in 10 years, which is closer? Oh, Savvy always comes with those deep
Oh,
bangers.
and yeah, shout out to Savvy. Like the minute it was like she was at the booth to the right, like facing to the moon cards, the booth to the right of it. She was just leaving that booth, had this crazy dope crown on, and was like, "Oh my god, Savvy, so good to finally meet you, Z. So glad you can make it. That's incredible." If I were to look at who I was 10 years ago and who I want to be in 10 years, which is closer? Wow, that's a powerful question. That's a powerful question. I mean, I'll say this. Probably who I want to be in 10 years, and it's not a diss to who I was 10 years ago. I think just the natural evolution of just human growth, learnings, trials and tribulations, mistakes made, lessons learned. Um, 10 years ago, yeah, that was a pivotal time. I think I had just stopped working at the wine shop, um, and just about finishing up being like a drummer for a band. I think we just finished doing like a Pacific Northwest tour, and I definitely at that point had just met my wife now, then girlfriend. Um, and that just changed everything. Like it
Mm,
was a total shift. Love hearts in the eyes. Everything changed. No more drumming. Was done at the wine shop. Was ready to enter the workforce. Eventually go into corporate world, if you will. And then 10 years later, here I am, married, family man. And I think 10 years from now, I'll be closer to who I want to be, and we'll get there one day at a time.
great question. Great answer.
Great
Yeah,
question.
we're all much wiser.
Yes, yes,
Daniel, can't thank you enough. Really appreciate your time.
absolutely.
Um, and I appreciate everyone for being here. Uh, I'm really liking these live sessions. There's just a little different vibe, and especially coming on for a second time. Really appreciate you. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's a moment, man.
It's a moment we're feeling it. What I'll say, like to your point, like I will go up to bat every single day. The hands down best. Like we're just so lucky. This is the best community that there is in anything. From if you're a fan of like a fan group of a band or musician or a sports team or an alumni from like every gamut, I've never seen this type of like true community and being there for each other and supporting, uplifting, and again across the globe. um by far, man, like this is so special. And so I would say, like, in the midst of the excitement for Topps Chrome and all that stuff, being grounded of kind of the surrounding and the people that were around through the journey,
Yeah.
is most important, because there's life outside of it. But at the same time, how can you not be just super over the moon pumped for not only Top Scrum but everything? There's just so much more coming, and I couldn't be more thrilled.
Yeah. Um, it's wild. Trying to just appreciate, like, live in the moment, appreciate, like, that I tweeted an office gif of Andy Bernard when he was the boss at the time, saying, like, I wish there was a way you can know that you're in the good old days while you're still in them.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
so it's like getting in that mindset, like,
mm.
that we're gonna appreciate this one day. So
I could
why
agree
not try to
more.
appreciate it now?
Rob, you said you're doing a giveaway with people who ask the questions.
I have, yeah, I have it written down.
Whenever you do
And
it,
I'm the worst with mailing stuff. I have a table full of giveaways from, like, and I just got to set it out. Like, I gotta do it. I'm the worst. I have such good intent, but I am not an organized ostrich. Um,
listen, underrated character, underrated.
yeah.
I'll say
So
this:
yeah,
whatever you're going to give away, if you want to do it on top of what you were going to give away, I want to throw in a New Year, New You box, number one, and a character comfort hoodie because it's still kind of cold, right? It's cold.
All right.
I get so like dazed because I'm in LA and I think, but we're back in summer, weather's good. But let's do New Year, New You box as well as a hoodie. If you want to combine them together as a thing or more people involved, let's do that. And
Let's go.
if I can snag some more goodies from the office, I'll throw it in there and take care of shipping on our end. So one less giveaway you got to take over to the old USPS.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Let me, I'm gonna
I'll DM you too.
perfect. I'm going to do it at the top of next week's show.
Boom.
Because I want to rub it in everyone's face that missed it because they were on Whatnot.
I love it.
Appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you doing that.
Absolutely.
Oh, and I didn't even mention when you donated all that stuff for the
Trivia,
tournament. That was very kind.
of course.
And that was a lot of fun. Ton of fun. I don't want to keep you up anymore, but really appreciate you, brother. Like
Likewise, man.
this is a lot of fun for me, and just that's it. That's all I can say. Really
Likewise.
appreciate you,
Rob. Thank you for everything you do, man. You know, we're everyone knows we're lucky to have you part of this community. All the work, time, and effort. And again, I can relate from many of us think that are parents juggling 20 things all at once and making it happen. And you show up, you're there, you're present, you're here for us, man, and you do really great work. And to be honestly a historian of the whole VeeFriends journey has been awesome to see you document and create. And I look forward to many, many more.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, man.
Thank you so much. You're right, H-Town. Community's undefeated. All right, guys. I will let everyone continue to Whatnot. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Daniel. And we'll talk to you soon. We'll see you next Wednesday, 5:55.
Thanks, everyone.
Later, guys.